The 2020 season will be forever known as the COVID season, and when it's looked back on, it will be remembered as one of the most injury-riddled seasons in recent memory. Can you remember a year with more injuries or stars sidelined? We can't, and today we're going to take a look at the injuries of some of your favorite players and let you know the latest and greatest from their rehabbing, as well as if any of them are in danger of missing time in the 2021 season or beyond. But before we get into that, you know the drill. Do me a favor and click that subscribe button so you can get more content like this from one of the fastest growing channels around. All done? Alright, let's go. One of the first stars to go down this season was also one of the biggest. In Week 2, while playing the Chicago Bears, all-world running back Saquon Barkley was doing his best to play Superman behind the Giants' horrendous offensive line when disaster struck near the Bears' sideline when Barkley went down with what looked like a clear season ender. The injury sent shockwaves through fans, front offices, and fantasy football managers alike, all cringing at one of the game's biggest stars missing almost the entirety of the 2020 season. Nobody wants to see anyone get hurt, and whether you're a Giants fan or not, you had to feel for Saquon as he was getting carted off the field and to an uncertain future. The good thing about being a freak like Saquon is that your body heals freakishly fast, and Saquon has reportedly looked fantastic in his recovery. Barkley will be back as one of football's most exciting players. Hopefully the Giants do whatever they can to fix the offensive line so Barkley won't feel the need to try and score on every play, and we get to see him play longer. 2020 was a year that wasn't for the Carolina Panthers' cheat code and highest paid running back in the league, Christian McCaffrey. Defenders may not be able to stop CMC, but injuries showed that the All-Pro is indeed mortal as he was sidelined with ankle, shoulder, and thigh injuries in what is sure to be a forgotten season for the running back. McCaffrey was close to returning to action by Week 17 last season after missing the previous 7 weeks, but the Panthers, who were all out of contention by that time, decided it was best to shut down their star who was itching to get back. McCaffrey is full speed and raring to go after feeling like he let down his organization and even felt bad for us fantasy football managers out there who drafted him first overall. Expect a fully motivated and fully functional CMC in 2021. Before Dak Prescott suffered a compound fracture and dislocated ankle against the New York Giants in Week 5, 2 things were happening. 1, Dak was single-handedly trying to rip the single-season passing record to shreds. And 2, he was showing that even with the offensive line playing poorly, just see Zeke's decline, that he could still function at the highest level. Sure, the Cowboys were 2-2 going into the game he destroyed his ankle, but both of those losses were by less than 3 points and to playoff teams. Will Dak be ready for the start of the 2021 season? Who knows? Initially, it was thought that Dak would be fine by the time training camp rolls around, but after a recent Dak update claiming that he had a second surgery 2 months back on the same ankle for an unrelated reason, there's no telling if Dak will be completely healed by training camp or ready to go by the time the season starts. For right now, Dak's camp is remaining optimistic. Following his second-year 1,100-plus yard breakout campaign, Cortland Sutton entered the third season with about as much promise as any wide receiver. Well, on his way to a season-opening 100-yard game with 66 receiving yards in the second quarter, Sutton looked primed for another dominant season before tearing his ACL tackling Joe Hayden on a Drew Lock interception recovery and is exactly where he should be at this point of it. The Broncos don't seem worried about their star being back by Week 1, and given that it's been almost a calendar year since Sutton hurt himself, we are sure he'll be just fine. During Joe Burrow's final season at LSU, he was a quarterback who could do no wrong. But then he went to Cincinnati, a team that hasn't been able to do much good over the last half-decade, failing to top 7 wins since the 2015 season. 2021 looked like it could be the year that rookie Joe Burrow graded out a couple of victories and made the Bengals look respectable in losses. Burrow and his Bengals may have lost 7 of the 10 games he played in, but 4 of those 7 were one-score games, and with how well Joe was playing, it makes you wonder how he would have played if he had a better offensive line and without the many injuries that plagued his offense this season. Burrow's 2-win campaign was so impressive that before his Week 11 injury, most had him beating out Super rookie Justin Jefferson and Chargers rookie sensation Justin Herbert for Rookie of the Year. While we're on the subject of injured Bengals, the 2020 offseason saw the Bengals' underpaid and underappreciated running back Joe Mixon break the bank to the tune of $48 million. Some say he was doing more than his part to lead the Bengals' backfield and keep defenses honest when a midfoot injury crept up on him and caused him to miss the final 10 games. Midfoot injuries can be tricky, and the best medicine for them is rest. Given that Mixon could have suited up Week 17 by some accounts, we're sure that he will have enough time to recover by the time the season starts to help Joe Burrow lead an improved Bengals attack. Marlon Mack is a good running back, Since becoming an Indianapolis Colt in 2017, Mack has shown flashes of brilliance, and in 2018, fans were calling for Mack as the starter, and the coaches obliged. Mack was impressive getting a bigger workload, managing over 900 yards in 12 games. And in 2019, the backfield was all his. In his first year as an outright starter, Mack was able to stay on the field for 14 games, but left the Colts high and dry in the other 2 games. Mack's absence showed how poor the team's depth was after they sputtered without him in the offense. In 2021, the Colts decided to draft Jonathan Taylor in the second round as Marlon Mack insurance, and it took Mack less than 2 quarters to end his 2020 season with a torn Achilles to prove them geniuses. Mack's injury was way back in September, so he'll have had just enough time to recover from his Achilles injury, but as we know, Achilles injuries aren't normal tears and can take almost 2 years to heal completely for some athletes. With Jonathan Taylor now the guy in Indy, it's tough to say what the 24-year-old Mack's future holds, but we're sure he'll be playing somewhere. Deebo Samuel could be the next great 49ers receiver. Named after the neighborhood bully Deebo in Ice Cube's Friday franchise, Samuel showed that he knows how to bully defensive backs and defenses like they owe him money. Unfortunately for the 49ers' Deebo, his problem isn't what he could do on the field, but whether or not he could stay on it. Following an injury-plagued rookie season, the second-year wideout was only able to start 5 of the 7 games he played in during the 2020 season due to a host of injuries that included a foot injury he suffered preparing for the 2020 season that required surgery, a hamstring injury that slowed him for a month but he fought through, and then a re-injured hamstring which eventually ended his season. Hamstrings are one of the easiest ailments to re-injure when training, but Samuel reportedly gave himself plenty of time to heal since we last saw him on the field, and is now 4 months removed from his last injury. There's optimism in Niderland as the team claims there is no danger of missing training camp or OTAs. It's worth noting that in Samuel's 2-year career, he's yet to play more than 3 straight games with 50-plus snaps. Cleveland Browns' Odell Beckham Jr. and injuries have been thick as thieves for the last few seasons, which have taken him from one of the league's most feared receivers to a receiver most fear will never put up the numbers we are all used to. As Beckham continues to miss time and underperform, many worry that he is now a wide receiver who can't put fear in defensive backs the way he used to. While OBJ's numbers slipped behind injuries and a run-first offense, he still showed flashes of his former greatness in 2020 before suffering an ACL tear making a tackle on Baker Mayfield's interception in Week 7. Gone are the days where ACL tears take a year to recover from, and OBJ, who is now 5 months removed from the injury, is reportedly making tremendous progress and is in no risk of missing any time in 2021. OBJ has been posting rehab pictures and videos since early February and is even seen playing basketball. So it's safe to say that Beckham will be back as planned. So it's not a matter of when he'll return, but where he will return, as reports have him linked to a handful of NFL teams. Last but certainly not least is the quarterback leading the new wave of elite signal callers, Kansas City Chiefs quarterback, and that pesky foot injury of his. We have seen Pat play through injuries during his career, and it appears that as long as he can walk, he will probably look against the Buccaneers and their ferocious defensive line, while his banged-up offensive line did little to help him. So don't be surprised if his foot, better known as turf toe, but is expected to make a full recovery by the time training camp rolls around, but his status for playing spring OTAs is still up in the air. Alright, sports fans, that does it for our time on the 10 injured NFL players that will be back next season. One has to wonder if the lack of training camp reps and all of the regularly scheduled activities that teams have affected this bizarre number of injuries this year, or if it was just bad luck. Let us know what you think by dropping a comment and getting a discussion going. As always, friends, if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and do so to stay up to date on this channel and all things football. Until next time, sports fans.